Welcome to the A to B Perspectives podcast, where we talk about how gaming influences and changes our lives. Today, I'm joined by Daisy from the channel Amdrag
Hello.
and by Tudens from the gaming channel with the same name.
Hi, everyone.
And in today's episode, we're talking about video game addiction. So, without further ado, roll the intro. So, as already mentioned, in this episode, we're talking about how we got addicted to video games. And Tudens, I think you're jonesing to get started with telling us about your story.
Yeah, so I've been playing video games since I was like 6 years old or something like that. And there's multiple times that I have considered that I would have struggled with what I would consider being somewhat addicted to video games. Obviously, when I was like a little kid, I was obsessed with it, so it was like all I could think about. But that's like common for kids, right? It definitely an addiction wasn't present until I played World of Warcraft. And I wouldn't even say an addiction is I think a strong term. It was more about accomplishing the things that I needed to for like a raid team. So in World of Warcraft, just like any other MMO, if you play Final Fantasy 14 or Guild Wars 2, I don't know quite as much about Guild Wars 2. Um, there's things that you have to do, or there used to be at least things that you have to do to prepare for raiding every week or prepare for your team or whatever it is you're doing. And a lot of that would be like daily quests. Those were a huge thing for many years for me, and I would literally log on to World of Warcraft every single day for, I mean, it could be anywhere between 15 minutes to 2 hours, to accomplish these things, all in the effort to have tiny little incremental advantages for when we came to actual raid. And they were expectations, to be on the team. You were expected to do these things because it made a difference. Everybody had the goal of beating the raid, so you needed to do these things. And that on its own is not addiction. That's just trying to accomplish, an expectation. But it's how it kind of gets in the way of your life that I would consider it addiction. Now, I have never experienced what I would consider anywhere near like a severe addiction to any kind of video game. But there were times, certainly when I would play World of Warcraft, that it was like a higher priority than it should have been. You know,
Right.
and I think that's what a lot of people who play those type of games struggle with. Um, and I think that's where the idea that the MMORPGs are super addictive come from, because it's not really, the act of like sitting down and running around and fighting monsters or doing anything like that, or completing quests. That in and of itself is not what I would consider addictive, and I don't think generally a person would become addicted to it. It's the context and the reasons that you have to do it that lead to it creeping up to being a higher priority. I do think, in general, I don't think video games are addictive in the traditional sense. I just think they can shift priorities depending on how the developer creates reward systems in the game, or how kind of in certain like Daisy, I know you want to talk about gacha games, how it
Yeah.
can manipulate essentially like
The
gambling
psychology.
addiction, the psychology of
Yeah.
gambling to encourage frequent returning of the game, and then it becoming a priority. Um, when it comes
Yeah.
to
When you were
actual
talking
addition,
about your
yeah, go ahead.
right. Well, I was going to say that when you were talking about your daily quests and stuff, that was like it was maybe obligation, right? It was something that you were obliged to do. And in your instance, there was a social element,
Right.
which is frequently an issue in addiction in general. And
Yeah.
so this is one of those things that's it's kind of interesting for me because addiction is something that I'm actually really fascinated in like the typical context. And it's kind of interesting as Americans. I don't know how the sentiment is in Europe. Damien, you have to tell me. But as Americans, Lucas and I grew up where there was this belief in this general presentation of cannabis as like a gateway drug, and it was like a really dangerous thing that will like lead to like a lot of really dangerous addictions. When if you were really to analyze or look at addictions in the United States, alcohol is number one.
Yep.
It's this big issue that like alcoholism is this huge problem, and it's like it almost feels like you're encouraged to be addicted to alcohol because there's a big market for it, because there's a lot of money to be made on alcohol and cigarettes or whatever. And so there's this sort of, I grew up with this weird perception that was like, you have the government saying one extreme, and then you have like all the people who are on the side of regulation and legalization saying the other extreme. And, the truth is really somewhere in the middle. And so now that cannabis is widely accessible to most Americans, we're finding for some people that like there are, they used to say that you couldn't be addicted to it, but you can be addicted to anything because we're learning more scientifically about how addiction works. And so while no, there's not like your body isn't freaking out about it in the traditional sense that you might over like a hardcore drugs or whatever, it is still something that your body is expecting. It's an input that your body expects and wants, and that you're encouraged to do and encouraged to repeat. And so it was interesting. When I was younger, I used to have this very strong belief that you couldn't be addicted to video games or whatever. But if you understand that a person can be addicted to gambling, that really kind of cracks that open, right? And so just like you were saying, there's this parallel right now with gacha gaming as the free-to-play model is becoming so popular. And I think it's really, it's insidious, but it is fascinating that so many people have access to free-to-play video games, and especially when Genshin Impact came out, and Genshin Impact was beautiful and fun and easy to understand and as complicated as a AAA release. And then, now that starts the loop where you need to log in every day in order to get your currency, in order to maybe get a chance at getting the new guy that you want. And you're going to want to, you can play with friends, you want to keep up with everybody. And I personally observe this in my son, who's really, really into Genshin Impact right now and does exactly this. They are on their phone like almost all day, and they're enjoying themselves, and they like the game, and they really like the characters, but every day they have to play. And they don't only have to play, but they typically have to play for hours. And their whole gaming life is split between Genshin Impact, Zenless Zone Zero, Honkai Star Rail, Cookie Run Kingdom. It's like these are the games that they are constantly playing.
Out of curiosity, have either of you played Genshin Impact?
I have briefly. I played just enough to realize that it was dangerous. But I have played a lot of Zenless Zone Zero.
I haven't, and actually I've been, I'm Gen Z, and so I've been recommended by a lot of friends of mine, to play or try Genshin Impact and to play with them. And actually, most of the time, like even in a lot of gaming Discord groups, if you search for people in, in my generation and my age, in like their mid-20s, for people to play video games with, it's mostly those kinds of games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, or I don't know, PUBG, Fortnite, stuff like nothing, and this kind of brings it back to when we talked about fighting games. I never saw anyone mentioning fighting games. Maybe you will find some people to play Mario Kart with, but that's about it. But most of the games are these kinds of addicting games, and I never gave them a try because of what I might say in the future.
Yeah. So time to learn something about Two Dens here. I have over 600 hours into Genshin Impact, and I have not played it for like 3 years. I started when Genshin Impact just came out. I did not. I want to be very clear about something. I've never spent a penny on Genshin Impact. So I played for over 600 hours for free. I don't almost ever engage with microtransactions of any form, and I do not gamble. I just straight up do not gamble. So there's, I've never done any kind of like polls or whatever that, I've never paid for any polls in any game of any type. But when I started playing Genshin Impact, I actually did not know what a gacha game was. I'd never experienced a gacha game before. I'd never seen it. So when I started playing it, I was kind of confused as to like, how is this game free, right? I eventually realized it as I figured out like, oh, wait a minute, people actually like spend thousands of dollars to try to get like specific characters. And in Genshin Impact and any other of these, Zenless Zone Zero is like this. I've never played Zenless. I've never played any of the other games. Honkai Star Rail kind of looks like really cool, but I've never played it. Right? I know how like you collect a character and then you can get higher versions of that character, or there are like rarer characters and then you can increase the power of the weapons. Like I know how all that works now, but Genshin Impact is incredibly insidious with how it takes your time, because when you first start the game, and either one of you could do it right now and you would experience this to this day, there is so much to do, right? And the game gives you so many like free things that you will be able to play that game for 60 hours as if it's like Breath of the Wild, right? As if it's and obviously Genshin Impact is heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. You would be able to play that game as if it's just a standard a single player action adventure game, right? For dozens of hours, and get a lot out of it, right? And then by the time you're getting to the point in the game that it's gonna start trying to needle you to have to start spending money, you're so invested in not just like the gameplay, which is, it's okay, like it's awesome at first, but if you really look at Genshin Impact gameplay, it's very like you spam one button over and over and over and over and over. But it kind of tricks you. It's very, the animations are super flashy, and there's so much going on with like the elemental system that it seems like there's more going on than there is. But you're not going to figure that out unless you're like aware of it. You're not going to figure that out until you're like 60 plus hours in, and then all of a sudden you've completed a whole map. You've 100%ed that whole map. And there's another map, and you're like 75% of the way done. So you're going to want to try to do that. And you've got 80% of the quests done. And then the game updates every like 3 months or something, which is ended up being why I stopped. Because I had just completed the most recent map, right? And I had all the quests done, and I'd found all the chests. And yeah, I logged in every day to do those stupid dailies that are not mandatory. Well, sorry, I should say this. They're not mandatory, but if you don't do them, you will it will like hurt your ability to play the game, because they're related to your power. You slowly accrue power, right? But the game scales around you. There are certain breakpoints where you have to like do a special quest, and it'll increase your world level, right? And the increasing of the world level is really sneaky, because this irritates me, because I really liked Genshin Impact, and this is why I had to stop. The world level allows you to increase the power of your characters, but everything else increases in power too, right? But it also increases the rewards that you get. It's pointless, because the rewards that you're getting, if you get to a certain world level, you are like a certain power level, and everything around you is going to stay at that power level if you don't increase your world level. You increase your world level, everything gets much stronger. Now you can get more powerful things, but then you have to grind forever to do it, right? And eventually, if your world level goes too high, you're going to start taking forever to kill anything. You go up to a regular group of enemies, not even like a boss, right? And it's going to take you like 3 minutes to whittle down their huge spongy XP. So you at that point have to increase the power level of your characters, which now you can do, right? Because your world level is higher. But to do that, you have to do all these daily quests that
Dailies.
have you killing these super spongy enemies. And
Okay.
so eventually it's like, okay, so what's the shortcut? The shortcut is spending money, right?
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
increase the world level. Well, then you can stay at a certain power level. You'll never get more powerful, but at least you'll be able to like complete the zones and see the content and do the quests and do the bosses. But yeah, the game eventually will like just say nope. You either spend 5 minutes attacking these single regular enemies, or you spend 20, and I'm not kidding, 20 minutes on a repeatable daily boss, or you just
Yeah.
don't accomplish anything. And you can't. The
Yeah.
world level is stuck where it is. You can't go back down. I think maybe you can once, but that's it. Once you do
I
it,
mean,
it's
it's
done.
I
like
bumped
a
into that on Zenless Zone Zero as well. So that's HoYoverse. That's the same developer. And that was the same thing for me. Is that the thing that got me into that game was it was aesthetically very cool looking. I just really liked it aesthetically. The characters are great. They really know what they're doing. That's one of the reasons, Damien, when we were talking about fighting games last time, that's one of the things that draws me to fighting games is the great character design. And so when this game comes out and it has a really cool character design and it's genuinely pretty fun, but it's the same thing that you said, Tudens, that it is pretty fun until you kind of realize that it is repeating, and the only way that the difficulty really scales is maybe an understanding of the elemental system at play, and then more health on enemies. And so it does get harder, and you do start losing all of a sudden, and it's this big surprise when you start losing. And the only way to get better is to just increase your statistics and to just get the better weapon or to just get the better stuff. And it's not about rewarding you as like being able to figure out an enemy's pattern or whatever. It's like the only way to really get through this boss or this gated encounter is to spend your time getting the resources or spending money. And now where I'm currently in this place with free to play, right, is I always limit myself. I only have one at a time because there'll be horrible time sinks if I do anything more.
Absolutely.
But I'm playing Marvel Rivals right now, and I've been playing Marvel Rivals since it came out. And I really genuinely like it quite a lot, in big part because I used to just be really into Overwatch when Overwatch launched, and I don't play that game anymore, and I don't really engage with it because of feelings about the community. But a new game came out that's very similar. I'm a huge comic book nerd, so it's like it gives me the feeling of playing with like toys or whatever. But I have to pay attention because they just got rid of daily quests. But up until a couple weeks ago, every day I was playing. Just to make sure that I got my little bit of experience, my little bit of whatever, I had to play that game a little bit every day, and everybody around me knew that every day I was going to have to do that a little bit. And it's just like you were saying earlier, that has changed my behavior. That is like now it's an expectation. And there's a big frustration when I spend $60 or $70 on a new video game and it's mine and it's like a book and I can do it whenever I want versus, oh, it's free. But if you really want to get the most out of it, if you want it to be as free as possible, you need to engage with it every single day.
Yep.
And I mean, to me, it sounds like, I never got that much into that kind of games, but to me, what you both described sounds kind of like a side hustle or like a job,
Right.
It
like a
is.
part-time job. It's like you invest so much time instead of, basically you invest 20 minutes, you work, you do chores for 20 minutes, and this basically amounts to a certain amount of money that you would have spent, right? So
Absolutely.
you invest your time, you do chores, you do something you don't like, but you kind of turn your brain off, and the reward is that you don't even get real money, but you get the result that a certain amount of money would get you.
And that
Kind of like-
Right.
is how those games are designed, right?
Yeah.
And then are you having fun?
Yeah.
I think that becomes, you have to do that equation in your own brain. is you have to say, like, is this still, when you're playing Genshin Impact and you're logging in every single day and you're doing those bosses, there was a level of fun that you're having that we could get from like any Gauntlet adjacent experience, right? Where you are hitting the button, the numbers are going down. But are you, there's no exchange where it's like, am I getting $60 worth of fun? It's just, am I getting fun that equals the amount of time that I'm spending on this? And I'm in a place with Marvel Rivals, so the answer is like typically yes. I play a lot with my friends. I do have a lot of fun with that game. I spend a little bit of money on it. I get the battle passes and stuff, and that's okay for me, but I have to keep myself in check. I have to make sure that like this is still something that is worth my time and that I'm enjoying and that I want to do, and not something that I've been tricked into thinking that I want to do.
And that is how those games get you. And because the sunk cost fallacy isn't just money,
right.
it's time as well. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I've always been really good at staying away from microtransactions. But I remember when I was like 600 hours into Genshin Impact, right, and everything was more powerful now, and I was like, oh my gosh, it takes me 30 minutes to do like 2 quests out of 10, right? I remember thinking, well, I could spend $30 and I could be killing these things in 30 seconds. So that's exactly how it works. And that was actually the moment I was like, oh wait a minute, I think I got to be done, which sucks because I think the Genshin Impact world is really cool, and I thought they actually had like an interesting story that I had followed from the beginning, and I know they said they had like I think they're coming up on what would be like the last world for the end of the like original story, and part of me is like, man, I really wish that I could like experience that, but there's just no way. It's so time consuming, and they lock story stuff behind that stuff too. So
for me, I kind of get what attracts people to these kinds of games, but this work aspect is a huge turnoff for me, and I can't understand or relate why it isn't a turnoff for most people. Maybe it's because I'm a lazy Greek who doesn't like to work. I don't even know if you guys know that stereotype. But in Europe,
I'm a lazy American who doesn't like to work, so I can sympathize.
But that's actually the thing. Yeah. So I do understand, right? Because I kind of always like to be working towards something, right? I've gotten, even like this, even like YouTube. Now when I am playing a game, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like researching. I'm like taking notes, like literally stopping, taking notes, going back to it. I personally enjoy that. I really like editing videos and putting stuff together. But playing video games used to be what I do for fun, right? And now it's in the essence of a goal. But that is not that different from when I played World of Warcraft. Because when I played a World of Warcraft, did I like logging on to World of Warcraft every day for 25 minutes and going and right-clicking the same 5 objects 100 times, or killing the same 10 boars over, obviously that's a stereotype, but that's kind of how daily quests work, right? No, but it was in the essence of a goal of something. So I actually do really understand where that mindset comes from, because I experience it myself in different ways. And I've come to realize that like, it's not great. As long as you can channel it somewhere positive, then it's fine, right? And as long as you can manage it, as in it like doesn't outweigh the priorities that should be higher. Because if this is how I choose to use my free time, or if this is how someone who plays RuneScape, for example, decides to use their free time, that's up to them, right? But it does, like, it's very real. Like, you're saying you can't understand it, Damien, but it is very real. It is very real, and it does affect a lot of people. I mean,
I understand that fact. It's just that I personally can't relate.
Right.
I also like, I'm also mostly a goal-driven person. It's just that I'm also very lazy, and I always had like a very big sense of freedom and not wanting to be a slave to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
and sometimes at work, especially here in Germany, for those that don't know, I'm a medical doctor, and especially for residents, so doctors in their first years, you kind of work 70 weeks here, like 30 hours of unpaid overtime, like per week. So in total, with the amount of time, and this was during the end of my med school days, and like a huge realization that I kind of want to help people, and it's like the science aspect and all of that is fun to me, but I just have to be a slave to a system, to the shareholders of the hospitals or to the state or whatever. And this is kind of, it to me it's even worse to kind of feel like I'm a slave to like a gaming company that
Mm-hmm.
also
Right.
wants to let me dry out of money. This is why fortunately, I think I kind of learned my lesson when I had a gaming addiction, but this is why it's like a huge turn off for me. Like when people were like when friends of mine were trying to get me into Genshin Impact, not only I was like, I'm kind of interested, but I'm not gonna do it because I know it's addicting. It's like it's a huge turn off for me. I'm never gonna touch it. That's kind of the thing. And uh, you mentioned also something very interesting, right? Priorities. So I think you know, let's kind of try to define what video game addiction actually is, right? Like, to which point is it really addicting? And I would say, obviously, in psychiatry and medicine, addiction, is actually a branch of psychiatry. As you mentioned, Daisy, like alcohol, cannabis is also like very prevalent. Actually, I didn't get to answer to your question, but
Right. That's true.
it is the case, like in Germany, that obviously both are huge problems. Both alcohol addiction, I would say it's even more common than cannabis addiction. I think mainly because it's more normalized in culture. But it is kind of still also taught that cannabis addiction tends to be far more a gateway drug into other substances, and it tends to make people like it's a bigger risk factor for big mental illnesses, like for schizophrenia, like even with like in lower kinds of usage,
Hmm.
um, which I have also kind of experienced firsthand, without like actually like commenting on the politics of it. Like in Germany, cannabis has also been legalized for I think maybe a year or so, and here in Berlin, every time you go to the streets, you smell weed everywhere. Like you can't
Hmm.
escape it. Um, but
Would
yeah,
not
to
enjoy
kind
that.
of like what?
I would not enjoy that.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of nice, the smell. What about you, Daisy?
Yeah, I like the smell. I don't really engage with it very much personally, for mental health reasons. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not particularly bothered by the smell. It's sagey. I was already kind of into that weird earthy planty stuff. So.
It's better than fumes. Berlin is a huge
Mhm.
city, and it's better than I don't know, like car smoke or
Mm.
whatever. But
Right.
yeah, so the thing is, let's try to kind of define addiction. So I would say that video game addiction, which I think is also like coded in the DSM-5 or in the ICD-10, which for those that don't know are like medical manuals for coding specific like illnesses or disorders. And I do think that it's, in the newest editions of those, you know, medical manuals, I think it is actually inside.
Yeah.
And but without like having done my research, I'm gonna, for the sake of this podcast, I'm gonna say that I would say that gaming addiction starts when you lose freedoms, right?
Mm.
Not necessarily when something is a huge priority, but when you literally enslave yourself to a certain point to a game. And that is the question because, students, you have mostly talked about this. So, would you say that you have given certain freedoms to World of Warcraft or to Genshin Impact? If so, how was it? Like, which freedoms were those?
Genshin Impact, no. I think about the only thing for that would be like logging in to do those stupid quests, right? Which would take a little bit of time away from other games that I would want to play. But it would just be like instead of playing Kingdom Hearts 3 at the time, that's about when I was playing Genshin. Um, Instead of playing Kingdom Hearts 3, I would instead first log into Genshin Impact and do 20 minutes of dailies, and then I would go play Kingdom Hearts 3. World of Warcraft, yes. It still was pretty limited to my other gaming time, except I think sleep also. Like, I definitely got less sleep than I should have back then
Mm.
because of it. Um, but it wasn't a oh, I could this evening I'm gonna spend 30 minutes on World of Warcraft and then I'm going to go play Mario Odyssey or something like that. It was okay, I'm playing World of Warcraft now. And after I'm done with the dailies, I'll see if my friends want to do a dungeon or I'll do something else like that. Um, and there were plenty of times where I would sit on World of Warcraft in case someone wanted to do something, or in case I
Mm.
could find an opportunity to do something so that I could get a little stronger, like with another group of people. So like if my friends weren't on, I would do a dungeon with someone else, or I would try to do a raid with someone else to see if I could get a little stronger, so that I could be more prepared for the raid.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely World of Warcraft,
Would,
and I would
would you say
say
that
go. Sorry, go ahead.
you were also dependent on World of Warcraft to a certain extent? Did
It
you
depends on
ever
how you
feel
define
encouraged to play the
dependent.
game?
Depends how you find dependent, because there were plenty of times that I just like took breaks, right? I would
Mm.
unsubscribe from World of Warcraft. I have played every expansion of World of Warcraft. Um, the last few couple expansions were me trying to play and like it just not catching on for me anymore. Um,
Mm.
but there were also, I'd go through a raid tier, I'd go through like a patch cycle. I would go really hard with it, and then I'd be kind of burnt out, so I would step away and I would unsubscribe from the game. But I would come back a few months later. Pretty much,
Did you really want to come back when you did? Or was it kind of like an urge?
yeah. It was like
I
an.
really
I
miss.
would say it was more like an urge. But yes,
Mm.
yes. But I still feel that to this day. I still will be like, oh man, I would really love to be part of that raid team again. It's
Mm.
just not there anymore. So
Mm.
Mm.
so no. So and that is very powerful. And also my son, since I just have like no time anymore. Very
Yeah.
very little time, and I have to be very efficient with it if I want to like accomplish things on YouTube or even just get through video games, right? Um, I know that there is just no way that I can be on a raid team. It's just not possible anymore. Um, and so I don't I I know that it's just not going to work, so I just don't. But do I want
Yeah.
to? Yeah. Do I feel that? And do I? That this is the thing, and maybe this is the point of addiction. Like this is a long effects of addiction in this sense. But like I know that inevitably I'm not going to enjoy it anymore, but I
Mm.
still feel that like urge to do it. I still feel that
Mm.
urge to do it. You know what I mean?
And yeah, and I think like that way I would really consider it like an addiction, like a video game addiction, because especially in psychiatry, in a lot of addictions, a very like important way to distinguish them is that you are never really cured.
Right.
Addictions can be
Mm.
treated, but once you're an alcoholic for life. you know, maybe for the rest of your life you never drink again, but you will never have again a normal relationship with alcohol. You know, you need to avoid that for the rest of your life. You will probably have urges for the rest of your life, you know, even if you can control them better. But you're never going to go back to normal, you know. And, you know, if you, you know, if someone, even after quitting something for a very, very long time, has urges towards something, you know, that they know they wouldn't enjoy that much, or they know it's not a good choice to do it, you know, then it does kind of sound like that to me. Obviously, you know, I'm not kind of uh
It's
I'm not diagnosing you or
I know,
something,
I know, I know.
and
I'm thinking
yeah.
about it. I'm
that,
thinking about it.
it's a very appropriate way of looking at that, though. And I think that this is where something where that we think about in addiction but don't talk about comes into play, is when you look at the destructiveness, the destructivity of the addiction, is when we tend to delineate and think about if things are an addiction or if they don't count. So, like what you were just talking about, Damien, is you were talking about alcoholism and you were talking about cannabis dependency. And for a long time, the conversation in public spaces around cannabis is that you couldn't be addicted to it. You couldn't develop a dependency on it. And we know that that's not true now. But what we also know is if you're dependent on alcohol, there's a good chance that you're maybe violent. There's a good chance that your body maybe is deteriorating rapidly. There's a good chance that you spend a lot of money and you spend a lot of time away from home, or there's a good, you can see the effects of alcohol very, very clearly. And I think pretty much anyone that you talk to is going to know somebody who's experienced alcoholism, or be at least familiar with the trope through, indirect contact. Whereas when you look at like cannabis use and dependency, typically that mostly looks like wasting money and spending a lot of time at home. And it doesn't typically result in like super erratic or violent behavior, or it doesn't typically result in a lot of like I would even say alienation from like your family or whatever, just because of the effects of the drug. And so I think that when we're talking about Tudens, using Warcraft and how that can come off and feel like it qualifies as an addiction, we look at the destructivity of it.
Right.
And I think that that's an important thing that, like, first of all, can make somebody dismiss it as like BS in the first place, even though it isn't, but you can kind of see, how was it affecting your life? How was it changing your life? How was it affecting your relationships? And I'm going to bet like you're fine. Things seem to work out.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of puzzling over it, because,
Right.
did it looking back on it? Does it look like an addiction? Yes, but I also decided one day to quit, and then that was it. I mean, I tried to go back, like actively tried to go back, and it didn't work. I tried twice. And I tried twice. It's the same thing with Genshin Impact, right? Because it had that same, like, slow progression towards this thing. And I did it for every single day for, like 2 years or something, like, or a year and a half or something like that, right? And I had over 600 hours in that game. And one day I was like, I'm done. And then I turned it off and I never turned it back on.
Yeah.
So, yes, it definitely comes across like that, but I also think it's not necessarily like it depends on the person, right? I don't think it was directly World of Warcraft. I think it was the commitment. It was the commitment to a raid team, because I look at other things like I am a very obsessive person. I obsess over things, and I have to keep things going, right? So an example of this is the YouTube channel. I have a rule for myself. My rule for myself is that I have to do a little bit of channel work every single day, at least a little bit, and it can range between a little bit and a lot, but I always have to do a little bit, right? And that keeps me consistent. That allows me to put out videos even though I'm super, super busy and everything else, right? Which is a positive. I think that's a positive thing,
Very
right?
much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then there's other positives. Like, I've channeled my obsessiveness. So another thing here, learn another thing about Two Dens, is that I used to be I used to be obese a long time ago. I used to be obese. I at one point in my life when I was a student teacher, probably like 12 years ago, I was getting up towards 300 pounds, right? And I made some changes and I got better. And about 5.5 years ago, I really started getting into cardio, right? And I decided at
Good.
that point, okay, I can do this. I'm going to go on a treadmill or walk or run outside for an hour a day. And I started writing it down, right? And I wrote down how far I walked or ran or jogged or whatever. And now I run 7 miles a day, every single day without fail.
Wow.
It is, and it takes time, that's an hour a day. I do that an hour a day. It is something that if I were to ever have to miss a day, would bother me. That would make me, I think it would, I think about it, right? I have set up things so that it doesn't happen. So during the school year, I get up very early in the morning. I get up at about 4:30 in the morning, and I do it before I have to go to work. I do it before my wife or my son would wake up, right? It's all done and I'm good. There's a nearby YMCA that I go to do it. And I do that, right? And it's healthy. It's a good thing. If I ever have to miss a day, there's a problem, right? Because now I've gone 5 years without missing a day and suddenly I have to miss a day. Uh-oh. Like, that's going to bother me. That's going to, like, really mess me up, right? And that's that obsession, right? So I think in World of Warcraft's case, I think it was more obsessiveness, right? So at this point, I'm, like, thinking, and I do think about this frequently, I'm like, okay, if I have to miss a day, how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to tolerate this, right? Because someday something is going to happen and I'm going to have to miss a day, right? But how am I going to handle it? I have contingency plan upon contingency plan to not make myself miss a day, but how am I going to deal with it? So that sort of thing, I think, also affects a lot of people, and is where maybe these gaming addictions come from, or can come from, right? Because am I dependent? Well, okay, this is a little different, because am I dependent on the running? Yes, I'm dependent on the running. But was I literally dependent on logging into World of Warcraft? Well, no, I wasn't. But I had a extrinsic motivation to do it, that was heavily motivating for me, right? So, yeah, it's tough.
I
It's
definitely,
tough.
I can relate a lot because I had the similar tendencies. I still do kind of have them, but this like obsessive thinking that I had has kind of affected, also other parts of my life. So I've kind of trained myself to be like less obsessive about a lot of things. But something I think you, Daisy, might know a bit about it. But I used to be like very, very religious. And I would, like going to church on Sunday or praying the rosary. I would have to pray the rosary like every day. And like for years, as you're saying, if I don't pray the rosary for one day, like the thought would make me very anxious. So,
Yeah. So there's something that I say on my channel a lot, and it's that any binary, once sufficiently examined, will yield a spectrum, right? Like there's infinity between any 2 points. And so it's very, very fascinating because I share that as well. I have soft diagnoses for autism spectrum disorder and for obsessive compulsive disorder and what would be called pure O. But really, though, there's not like this switch that says this is it or this isn't it. Really, if you look at anything closely enough, you realize there's this big spectrum. And at some point, somebody becomes diagnosable and we want to talk about that. And that's when we say, like, okay, this is when it counts or not. But really, everything is a spectrum. And so it's really great because we're talking about addiction as a spectrum and not as a binary thing. We're forcing that conversation. And that could really help to yield a lot of empathy for people who struggle with more destructive addictions. I've definitely met different degrees of alcoholic where I maybe met somebody who drinks every day, but there's a level of control, or there's a level of budgeting, or there's a level of something in there that doesn't make it okay, but it is something that is like it's understandable. It's not something that's just like black and white. And so it's very cool because Two Dens, you're talking about this running that you do every day and how it's like an obsession and how it's something that like has to happen. And you have this amazing justification because it's good for you and it feels great. And it's like, and it's healthy and it keeps your body in good shape. And it's like, nobody is ever going to sit down and be like, hey, you're addicted to this, you got to stop. But it's still on the spectrum somewhere. You could be weirder. It could take you 2 or 3 hours a day. It could be something that stops you from helping get your son ready in the morning. Or it could be something that like you're leaving work early because you need to get another run in. Or it could be, it's like you can be addicted to anything. Mm-hmm. And so I think what's a really cool thing about being a human being is the degree of self-awareness that we have about our own psychology. And so like, we can sit here and discuss how Hoyoverse is like exploiting people and how they are very obviously like, oh, you got to log in, you got to do your stuff. And if you want a shortcut, here it is. And you could just give us some money and take all this stuff for free. And on a capitalistic scale, that just works. But we know why. And we know how we can reasonably engage with it. When you were talking about how you would spend your time, you might log into Genshin before playing Kingdom Hearts. That was a reasonable way to spend your time, and you're aware of the mechanics of what's going on in your brain, and you're learning how to judge them, and you're learning how to discern them, and learning how to navigate through it. But you are learning how to be Two Dens. You're learning that yes, you have some obsessive tendencies, and you're learning how to use that. A lot of people have really difficult anxiety, and they can learn how to redirect their anxious energy. And it's not that you're going to get rid of it or that you're going to quit having anxiety disorder, but you can redirect it and you can learn to work with it and you can learn to live with it. And I think it's really wonderful to take addiction, and because we're talking about it in a non-chemical setting, to be able to realize that it is just as much of a spectrum as anything else, and that it's another thing that can be really harmful. It can be managed. It can be part of you forever. It can be just part of who you are. It's really... I think it's a very responsible conversation, and I particularly appreciate, Damien, how you're able to come at it with a medical mind because of your medical background, and being able to say like, well, here's the checklist, but we don't end it at like, this means yes and you need help. We end it with a real conversation, like you would have with a psychiatrist or a therapist or something like that, where they never sit down and they're not trying to fix you and they're not trying to purge you or get rid of these problems. Even if you have like schizoaffective disorder, they're trying to help you learn how to be you, and how to function best in society and help you figure out what you need from support. And I also, I strongly relate to the responsibility of having a child. And you were just talking about how you make a point to get up really early in the morning before anyone else needs you, and you're talking about how you can't really do Warcraft like you did before because, your priorities are in line with your values. And that is a place where a lot of people fall short, whatever their addiction is they will prioritize their addiction over their children. But I've known a lot of people who have really difficult addictions and then have children, and then that creates this, higher bar, this higher level. And I experienced that myself too. I had children when I was very young. And I wasn't doing anything too crazy, but it was it kept me on a very good path because I was able to assimilate my identity as a parent into myself really quickly. And there was nothing more important than taking care of my kids and being there for them and all that good stuff. And so that really, like, I don't know, again, being a person, being a human, being a parent, it's like you're navigating through these challenges and but without alienating them as part of your personality. It's like you're very self-aware of how Warcraft affected you and how you wanted to play it, and now you still have the urge. That's the right thing to do, and not act like it wasn't a thing or it won't ever be a thing.
Right. I would definitely agree on the kids thing, because I mean, just thinking about my son, thinking about the amount of stuff that I do, responsibilities, cleaning up around the house, making sure that XYZ is all set before any kind of free time, or making sure that I have organized my schedule around what he needs. just thinking about how I functioned before he was born versus almost immediately after, it is like a very huge shift. And I do think
Yeah.
I would even go just knowing myself about how like routine oriented I am. I think it's like even in men, I think it's a chemical thing. Maybe Damien, maybe you have thoughts on this, or but like it felt to me like all of a sudden something very very quickly clicked, and I wonder like is it a chemical thing? Is it like, oh, my brain knows I've got a kid now, and therefore like that's that. Like certain other things kind of just snapped into place. Any thoughts, Damien?
Yeah. Well, I don't know like any chemicals specifically. I think, there's never just one chemical that does like just one thing in the body. It's usually a combination. Um, but I would say that in most people, I think there are like paternal or maternal instincts. And I think, when you have a kid, I think those get turned on like
Right.
that, in most people. Fortunately, not for everyone. Um, a big bonding hormone with children is oxytocin. Now, how that affects like personal choices or stuff like that, you know, I'm not, entirely sure. I haven't done my research on that part. But if I, had a gun to my head and I had to choose one, I would say it's that. But, you know, take it with a
There
grain of.
is, something I'm sure you'll relate to, Tudens, is the baby smell.
Oh yeah,
It's like
definitely.
I've heard that's like this hormonal soup
Activated,
that comes out
activate
of the
something.
top of their head, like they're an incense dispenser.
Yeah.
And so it's like I do remember distinctly, like, oh yeah, I can't get enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So,
sounds awesome.
Damien, you've alluded that you struggled at some point with what you would consider addiction to a video game. Before you do it, can I take a guess what video game it is?
Yeah, sure.
Was it League of Legends?
Yep.
All right, I want to hear about it.
Ah,
Okay.
nice.
So before something, I also wanted to mention, because we talked about obsessions. Aren't addictions obsessions?
I absolutely.
What's the difference? What's the
What's the
what's the
difference between
difference?
an obsession and an addiction?
So I've kind of, this is not like coming from a scientific perspective, but to me I would say that addictions can be very similar to OCD, but connected to something specifically. You have intrusions, you have this kind of mental dependency. To me it's, you know, I think there's a big thing, and I do have the impression, obviously, I haven't done any studies about that if someone has had, you know, a certain addiction, that this can be a risk factor to having also OCD and to having obsessive thoughts or just thought patterns or obsessive habits in general, in life, not necessarily just in connection to one substance or something. But, that's my own hypothesis. Maybe I should patent it or do a study about that. But yeah, to get into, my story, when I was a teenager, my friends, that I grew up with whom I also played lots of video games together, they discovered this new game that was very, very new, which is called League of Legends. It was basically in season one that they discovered it. So of League of Legends. So it was super, super new. I remember like the character models looked like very bad. I don't know. Have you guys ever? You haven't even played League of Legends ever, right?
Haven't played it.
Nope.
Am familiar through
I've watched a lot of it, but I have
extra
not played it.
media.
Yeah. So there were these really bad, like 3D models in the beginning that look like something out of the N64. That's what we're kind of talking about, season one.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got into it. I think I must have been like 12 or something. and I had to play like on a very bad family laptop. I think it was like on Windows XP or Vista or something, and it would overheat, and I couldn't play for more than 2 hours or something. This was how it was like in the beginning. But the thing is that everyone in, of my friend group with whom we used to play video games together was really into League of Legends. Everyone and their siblings also. So I was kind of surrounded, by that. And before long, it had become the main bonding activity, between me and my friends. There was nothing else. And this kind of, again, brings this communal aspect or this society aspect that I think both of you talked about. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like smoking or drinking, you might start due to peer pressure or because all your friends are doing it. And then every time you hang out with your friends, you're drinking or smoking or whatever. And then it kind of creates these mental connections that, to you hanging out with your friends, having a good time is intrinsically connected to this addiction, which makes it even worse. And this what it was like in my case. I really got into it. I also, we would also gather and watch the tournaments. I went to Gamescom which is in Germany. I don't know if you ever heard about it. It's a huge
I
Mm-hmm.
would
video game convention.
I would love to go someday. I never will, but yes, I'm quite aware.
I went there when I was like 12 or 13, and I went to like the or maybe it was like the world finals, like of League of like of season 2, I think it was. And I watched it live. I saw, my favorite team, Team Solo Mid. It was at the time. I'm sure they're not relevant anymore, are they? Do you know?
I I
Tudens?
Gonna
I
tell you.
watch I watch it, but I have no idea. I don't know who any of the teams are. I just watch it because it's interesting.
Okay, I see. Yeah, but basically, years later down the line, I realized that it got less and less interesting to me, that it started feeling kind of repetitive. And fortunately, League of Legends doesn't have this kind of chores aspect. You do chores, but you get a reward for it. The game itself was that thing, kind of.
Mm.
And I didn't also like the dynamic that this was all we used to do with my friends. So at a certain point, I just quit. And I think something that, spoiler alert, is going to be the loot drop is a video by Video Game Donkey, where he also quit League of Legends.
I love
Yeah.
video game Donkey. He's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because for me, like for a very long amount of time, and this is why I would say that it was kind of an addiction, is because I kept playing so much. I sacrificed a lot of things in my personal time for something I really didn't enjoy. Like I knew while playing it, I don't enjoy playing League of Legends, but just kept doing so. And yeah, I don't know why, but after watching that video, something clicked. And then, friends tried to talk me into it again. And then I kind of tried it. And maybe I played a bit just, to hang out with my friends. But I never really got really interested in it. And since then, after I quit, the big realization is how much time I sank into it. I don't know how many hours it is, honestly. But I think I played it like very seriously, at least for 2 hours per day, every day for maybe 3 years, maybe more. And yeah, I realized, I could have played and finished so many other video games. I could have done so many things. In high school, I started getting into learning Japanese. I was like, imagine if all of these hours that I spent, playing League of Legends, I spent learning Japanese. You know, I would
I
be fluent in Japanese at this
I
point.
know that exact feeling when it comes to World of Warcraft. That exact feeling. Yep.
And I felt like very cheated.
Hmm.
And I did, you mentioned also too, Dance, or yeah, I think it was you, the sunk cost fallacy. Because
Hmm.
at some point I was like, yeah, but I've already spent so much time with this game, should I really drop it now? Or then all of these hours are for nothing. And the big realization is that it was always for nothing, you know. It doesn't change anything whether I keep playing it. It's still for nothing, and it just gets worse because I just waste even more hours. And yeah, this kind of turned me off in general, as I mentioned before, from any of the games that you can really, really, that don't have a clear beginning and a clear end.
Hmm.
um, I'm just it's a turn off for me, you know, any video game.
Yeah.
Do you guys also have that, tendency or not anymore?
I
I
do.
get that for sure.
I definitely have the ten. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I've always talked about Minecraft, where
Mm.
when Minecraft first came out and I was playing it with my friends, it was very fun. It was very neat and novel. I really, it was just like I was playing Legos with all my buddies and it was great. But there is this point where it's like, oh, they're adding new stuff and there's new stuff to do, and it's like, for me, it was like, well, I don't want to do any of that stuff. It's like, where's the engagement? Where's like, I didn't want to play a game where the point of playing the game was just playing the game, I guess.
Yeah,
And that's a
yeah,
turnoff for Animal Crossing as well,
yeah.
where
Same.
like I like Animal Crossing and I will play Animal Crossing right up until a certain point, but I can't. I won't do the endless, like I just want to build another house or make it look a little different, or I didn't even get too crazy on my island. I got my money's worth. I enjoyed it. I like the aesthetics. I like the characters, but I have to put limiters on myself for that same sort of deal.
Yeah,
A thing with Marvel Rivals, which is currently my endless experience, is that I personally have a lot of comic book fandom in my heart. And so when a new character comes out, I do want to engage with it and I do want to see how they adapted it and I want to play with it. And for me, it feels very much like being a kid playing with action figures, just letting myself play. But again, I won't let it become an obligation. I won't let it become something that I have to do because I've done it for so long. Or,
Yeah.
I think we all appear to have natural limiters on things like that.
It
yeah,
has
for sure.
become a pretty powerful line in the sand for me for any game that has like any kind of time gating for that reason.
Mm.
So I think about a game that I played a lot when I was a kid was RuneScape. This was before World of Warcraft,
Mhm.
and RuneScape uh, was notable for having very little of that like time gating stuff. So like the dailies,
Mm.
that sort of commitment style things, and I would love to play like consistently old school RuneScape. But what turns me off immediately from it, aside from the fact that it's a very grindy game, which I don't mind grindy games,
Same.
but
Yeah.
there are things in that game now that in order to progress in it, you got to log in every day. There's an
Mm.
entire skill called, it's an entire skill of farming, and it's really minor. That's the thing. That's how powerful this like aversion to it I have is now, that the skill of farming, if you log in for 5 minutes once every even not even a day sometimes, but a couple of days, you're good, right? You're fine. You can
Hmm.
do it whenever you want to. Still, it's a huge aversion to me. It's like, oh, but I don't want to feel like I have to. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a super strong aversion to me now. Yeah.
Mm. Like I can give you an example for what, because there's MOBAs, like, or not, these kinds of online games like
Hmm.
more RPGs, and there is a game called Dragon Quest X, which I think most people, like in the West at least, have never played because it's only available in Japan. And I actually played it. And the reason I did, even though it's an MMORPG, is because it has a storyline that has a clear end. And I think this is for me the main criteria. If I can play MMORPGs. It's a bit of a turnoff, but I can play them and I can have fun with them if I know that it will have an end. That I will feel a sense of accomplishment, and instead of just blue balling myself, for 600 hours of my lifetime.
Yeah, same with Final Fantasy 14. Actually, a few years ago, I played through the entire story of Final Fantasy 14, which was like a 500-hour thing, and it's obviously based on expansions, right? So every expansion adds to the story, but this expansion was like an ending to the story that started all the way at the beginning of the actual Final Fantasy 14, not even the re-release. And I got to that ending, and I was able to put the game down and unsubscribe and be like, "That was amazing. I'm done." And I haven't felt the need to go back. So there are games that can do it. Daisy, it's kind of interesting that you bring up Animal Crossing. I have never played Animal Crossing. My wife has played every Animal Crossing, and she had like 1,200 hours or something in Animal Crossing New Horizons. I have never thought about old Animal Crossing in the context of like setting a commitment and doing these daily things, but it totally is.
Yeah.
It totally is like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's probably a little bit more like chill, though. I feel like it's not as invasive as some other games. I don't know. I've never played it.
And there's no microtransactions or anything, right. and there aren't the constant updates. There's no FOMO. It is a very intentional, very like laid back experience, and that is the intention. And I have a partner who plays like a lot of Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. Like, those are their favorite kinds of things, is just these really cozy, endless experiences. And they get a lot out of that. And there's absolutely no like issue. I wouldn't question any of their gaming habits at all. It's how they feel good about spending their time, and it's relaxing, and they really get a lot out of that. I just personally need structure. I need just a little bit more. I need a little bit of a push. I need to be told that there's a thing to do and a place to go and a way to finish. And
that's kind of.
But yeah, it does have you log in, you collect the shells, you sell everything, you look for the dig spots. Like there's a 30-minute cycle every day you play Animal Crossing.
That's kind of interesting because, like, why is it different? Is the question I would have. Yeah. And to know, I would really need to play the games, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll play an Animal Crossing game at some point. But yeah. Like, why is it different that in Animal Crossing you can hop onto the game, go catch some fish, dig some stuff, I don't know, pick up sticks? I saw my wife picking up a lot of sticks. And that is like meditative, but you're encouraged. I don't think the game like tricks you into doing it every day, but you're encouraged to do it every day. But then you've got
the game tries to stop you from playing it, actually. Which is a very, very different thing. In New Horizons especially, when you turn it on and you play, they will be like, all right, you've done everything you can do today, come back tomorrow. And they don't want you to keep playing.
And how long is that?
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. On the first day, there's maybe a bit to do. But the first 30 days of New Horizons, if you're playing it without manipulating your time settings and your Switch, I don't know. You probably play for no more than an hour a day, probably less than that. And again, it's that Nintendo thing where we all played a Wii, and it was like, you've been playing for more than half an hour. Are you sure you don't want to go outside and touch some grass? Like,
yeah.
There's a very different mindset that I think comes from. I won't go into it too much culturally because I don't want to be wrong about something that sensitive. But I do think, at least in regards to, we're talking about a $60 game that you paid for once and is now yours, like it's a book, versus when we're looking at this model typically found in especially Chinese gacha games, where it's like, this is ours and we're letting you play it. Isn't that so cool? And it's like this constant deluge of content and engagement where they're making every little bit of money off of every little microtransaction, and that's the only way for them to get paid. I think that there's I worry very much about those streams crossing. When I hear that a game is going to be free to play, it's a red flag and it upsets me and I'm worried.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Same.
I
Because
feel
if
that very
something
way.
is free, then you are the product.
Correct.
Yeah, and so that would be like the worst news is if they announce new Animal Crossing finally and it's like an $80 premium title or whatever. I'm clapping. If they announce, okay, there's a new Animal Crossing and it's free for all Nintendo, it's like, oh no, now I'm worried that I'm going to log in and I'm going to be able to exchange money for bells and I'm going to be able to, I don't want to do any of that.
That's funny.
But I mean, isn't it?
Because, okay, sorry, go ahead, Davian. I'll come back to this.
I just want to say about owning a game, and I think this is maybe more of a conversation for a different time.
Yeah.
But, even I think now with the Switch 2, and I think it's happening with a lot of like gaming platforms and developers, but I think it's very rare nowadays that you actually own a game.
That's correct.
I think even with Nintendo, most games you license them.
You own the. Yeah, I recently listened to a video on this. It's been this way for a long time apparently, but you own the disc or the little cartridge, but you don't own the software. You license the software. It's kind of it's kind of moot, but it is an issue, but it's not an issue. It's a greater issue with like software copyright law than it is with like video games specifically. It's a really interesting video. Real quick loot drop. Moon Channel is a channel by a lawyer who is very involved in video games, but he also talks a lot about like LGBTQ rights and a whole bunch of other. He's got his videos are fascinating. They're like 5 hours long. That's an exaggeration. They're like 2 hours. But they're
great channel.
Really interesting. He just did a video on this.
They did a video.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to nerd out with you. They did a video on why you always kill God in JRPGs.
Yes, that's like one of my favorite videos. I talk
about that video like once a week.
Yeah. He just did a video on that topic specifically. It was super interesting, and it opened my eyes a lot to like right now. There's a big controversy about how Switch 2 Nintendo can brick your console, which I already was aware of the fact that PS5, like Sony could already do that, and so could Microsoft and X and Y and Z. Anybody who owns a computer, Microsoft or Apple, can also just do that. But how he goes into it and explains what the real issue behind that is super, super interesting. A little bit sidetracky, but that was, it's a cool video. I don't even remember what I was talking about before.
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. Right. So
free to play model.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about how like Animal Crossing doesn't want you to play anymore, and I was thinking about that in the context of Genshin Impact, right? Because at a certain point in Genshin Impact, there is literally nothing for you to do after you do your dailies every day, right? And those dailies can take a varying amount of time, but I was thinking like to get to that point, you're probably like 300-400 hours into the game, so it's not realistic. So that I think Genshin is probably one of those games that just constantly wants you to have me logged in. But there's another game, the Pokemon TCG Pocket, which I play every day. I like that game. That game is very much like all it cares is that you open that app and you open up your packs, and that's it, right? Yes, you can pay it money. You can pay tons of money into it. There are battles. I really like the battles, but once you are done opening up your packs, there's really hardly anything left to do. Like that is an app that I open for like a minute and a half a day, right? And it doesn't want you to open it any more than that. It's weird. It's weird. But
I also just remembered that Nintendo has already done like a gacha addictive kind of game with Fire Emblem. I don't remember what it's called.
Fire Emblem Heroes.
Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah. I
haven't touched any of their mobile stuff.
I don't know if I ever played that game. But they
I
did do it.
downloaded that one just because I felt like, oh, that would fit well on a phone. I just hate playing video games on my phone. So that's kept me clear of pretty much anything that they've done. So
I do too. I have no desire to. I have some friends that play it, so maybe I'll ask them about it. But I have no desire to check that game out. I do like Fire Emblem, but yeah.
Also, I kind of asked this to Tudens before, but Daisy, do you feel you were ever really addicted or dependent to some extent?
The only space in my life, I've been playing video games the whole time I've been on Earth. I was born with a Nintendo in my bedroom. It became a Super Nintendo. It's like there's never been a time where I haven't been playing video games. So like, I don't know. I've never felt like if I miss a day, there's something wrong or something's gone wrong. It would just be a little bit unusual. I try and read every day. I try and play video games every day. I keep a very obsessive journal where I keep track of every activity that I do. I've been doing this for like a decade. And I log every activity. I write every game that I played. I write every book that I was reading. And so there is sort of like, again, when we were talking about obsession and addiction, there is sort of like an obsessive behavior there where I always want to be chipping away at something.
Yeah.
I really, video games that give me a logbook to fill out, I'm a sucker for right now. Monster Train 2 has become one of my most played games ever because I want to fill out this whole logbook. I want to use every card. I want to use every combination. But in terms of genuine, like real, it was affecting my life in any sort of way. It only ever really happened for me as like a coping mechanism during challenging times in childhood. Mm-hmm. And that is the only way I could really put it, is where like things were just not really very well at home and I didn't really want to be interacting with the people in my household. And so I played like every Final Fantasy game, right. Something that was going to take me away completely somewhere else. And again, I don't think that was an addiction, but it's in the family where it was a guaranteed escape in the same way that somebody might read. I definitely needed to and wanted to be in Final Fantasy world for long chunks of time. And I would just come home from school, do that, go to bed.
I mean, it all overlaps, but that sounds way more like a coping mechanism. But I think, yeah.
Like you just said, all of it it's in a soup somewhere, right? Yeah. What was my obsession? What was my autism? What was addiction? What was coping? It's all, and any good, just as a heads up to anybody listening to this and you're thinking about addiction or you're thinking about obsession or you're thinking about that stuff, any good psychiatrist or therapist, it will have a holistic approach. And, if you go somewhere and they're really trying to like needle in and like target one specific issue, it's a good sign to find somebody else, because anybody really worth their salt and worth their degree is going to take a holistic approach to you and your whole life and everything that you are, and then learn how to target and help you, develop strategies, based on your whole picture and not just on one diagnosis.
I give my physician's seal of approval to that.
Yeah. Thanks, Damien. You're definitely at least a little bit more qualified to discuss such matter. I'm a high school dropout. What do I know?
But it's fun, actually. It's actually good that you mention this escapism aspect, because I think it's a very important aspect of addiction in general. I think a lot of alcoholics also, or maybe addicts to harder substances, why are they doing it? They're in the end they're just escaping from their life.
This is right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you so strongly. But this is just a really good opportunity because everybody else has done theirs early. This is my loot drop for today. I really want to plug Chasing the Scream by Johann Hari. And what's so important is that while we're discussing addiction today on this podcast, we are not really talking about chemical addiction. But I want it to really be understood, just like what you were just saying, Damien, is that it is the same family. It's the same monster. It's the same thing. It just can have different effects. And nothing has helped generate more empathy, kindness, and understanding for addiction, especially in America. This book is primarily about the war on drugs and the motivating factors behind it. This is something that it's a huge bummer It's really sad. It's really hard to read. But if you are curious about like understanding addiction from an addict's perspective and learning how addiction is weaponized by systems of power to harm and oppress people and groups, that's something that I really wanted to plug today and wanted to make sure that I got out there. Chasing the Scream, Johann Hari. He's written other books in the same vein too, but this one it's life-changing.
Cool. Also, I just remembered because we were talking about Nintendo and stuff like that. I know, Tudens, you wanted to talk about Mario Odyssey again.
Yeah, so let's move on to what we've been playing or are doing in the last however long it's been. So, in preparation for Bonanza coming out, Donkey Kong Bonanza, I actually replayed Odyssey for the first time since it came out. I only played Odyssey once when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. But I recently replayed it, and I replayed it after our conversation about it. So, Damien, you will be happy to hear that
No.
partially I agree with you. So, replaying it, the moons are boring. Most of them, right? Unlocking the moons, that like there's a lot of what I would call throwaway moons, right? They just put them out.
Exactly.
And like it's kind of nice to just run around, and I will like every 20 to 30 seconds be able to identify, that's probably a moon, and be able to go and get it. And then there are more challenging platforming ones, which I appreciated. I did find myself this time, like, I learned a lot of the movement a lot better this time around because I was really kind of paying attention to what I was doing and trying to get better at it. And the first time around, I just played the game, right? I just played the game and had fun. But I was kind of like taking notes during this one and thinking about it. Despite that, now this is the other half of this, I couldn't put it down. I have to say this. It takes me a long time to play through games, right? It takes me months to get through games because of my limited free time, right? And because I was recording it for a video that I plan to do in the future. I was recording the whole thing, and I like to stop recording after 10 minutes so that the files that I'm using don't get too big, right? And I found myself having to remind myself, like, oh my gosh, it's been 25 minutes. I have this like huge file size now that I'm going to have to work with when I'm editing this video because I just got so lost in it. Because it just keeps showing you things that you can go do and giving you a quick, usually very, very easy challenge to do, right? It's usually incredibly easy. And yes, do they explore Mario's movement mechanics like they should? They don't. The game just doesn't. But it's still just so much fun to just run around and find things, right? And you look under every crack and you throw Cappy at everything you can, and it's fast, it's snappy, it feels good to play, and I still just had a lot of fun, right? It's just super, super, super fun. It's not complex, it's not hard, but it is super fun. And even like the harder things, like I didn't complete every moon. I might at some point go back and try to get every single moon. But even the easy ones, right? They're just quick, snap your finger, get them. Now, it shouldn't play the little jingle every single time you get a moon. It shouldn't like stop the gameplay and then do the little animation. That got old, especially once I got to Mushroom Kingdom and I was able to go to Toadette and unlock all the moons that I'd completed, because it gives you like achievements that you're going for throughout the game, and it gives you a moon for every single one of them. It should just do it. It should just give you all of them at once, right? Because it is ridiculous that it makes you sit there and go and click A 1,000 times and just go through it all. Yes, but moment to moment gameplay, that doesn't matter. It's like I measure a couple things when I'm trying to enjoy a video game. Like, am I enjoying the story? Does the gameplay suck, but I enjoy the story or the world or something like that? If that's the case, I can get through it, right? Does the story mega suck, but the gameplay is very interesting and fun? If that's the case, I can do it. If both of them suck, I'm probably going to stop playing the game, right? If there's something that I'm not enjoying about the game, but Mario Odyssey, it didn't matter how simple everything was, simply because it was just really satisfying and fun to run around and collect moons as they go and explore these different worlds, which I still think are some of the cooler worlds. I don't think they hold a card to Mario Galaxy or Mario Galaxy 2, but I think they're some of the more interesting worlds that you get to see in Mario games. I really liked it. It's just really fun. It's just
Honestly, it sounds
coming through it with
very
a
balanced.
critical eye, even coming through it with a critical eye, which is what I was doing this time around. I still found myself just getting lost and losing track of time and having a lot of fun. So I don't know. I totally agree. I think the objectives are boring. I think the game does not explore the mechanics the way it should, and yet it's super fun. It's kind of the same thing as Scarlet and Violet, where the game looks like garbage and runs like garbage and should never have released the way it did, and it's still so much fun. You know? It's just the way it is. Speaking of
I see.
which, I've been playing Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Yeah.
That game is amazing.
Yeah. That's all I could think about when you were talking about Odyssey was how like they've solved those little issues. Like Donkey Kong Bonanza, I'm probably like 7 hours in or something like that. But I want to call it a perfect video game. Like I'm so like right there. It is so damn good. And they really solved that moon problem. Because I was thinking when you were describing the moons, I was thinking how like it would have been okay to have another tier of collectible, because it is unfortunate that the moons feel uneven. You do something really challenging and really fun, and you get the same reward for doing something stupid that didn't take any time at all. Which is like in Zelda, it's like the Korok things that you do, or the stupid little things, and that's great. And then you get bigger rewards for bigger challenges. But in Mario Odyssey, it's moons for everything, and I understand that is in service of younger players and less skilled players, and less. I get that. But also creating that tier, like I guess they give you like multiple moons for some of the more challenging ones.
It's not even challenging.
Like
it's like story pieces, which
right.
Yeah. So can I
it
ask
more
a question
recently.
real quick, Daisy? Because I have had limited time. I don't know quite how long I am into the game. Can you just tell me how many times you've jumped down a big hole, roughly?
I can tell you that I am still in a lagoon layer, the very first layer that they put you in.
I'm just a little bit further than you, so I'm not that much further. I kind of agree. It's like I am struggling to find things to be critical of.
Yeah,
like in just period.
Yeah, and the fun aspect was something that like it's the reason I'm still where I am. Is so I was playing with my daughter, who was very excited for this game. They really like the second player mode. We played Pikmin 4 together, which trivialized a lot of it, but it was totally worth it to be playing with a family member like that. So they're playing as Pauline on the shoulder, and they're shooting out their words or whatever, and they're making the game harder in certain points and trivializing it completely in others. And so they left to go be with their mom for the week. And I haven't decided if I'm going to play it without them. But I knew that I was like, okay, I could at least go and get like the fossils in the first layer. And there was this turnover moment where it was just like, oh my God, like this is so much fun. When I was just mechanically just going through the terrain, just collecting the treasure chests, just getting the maps, just finding the fossils. I was enjoying myself so much just playing the game without any sort of like motivating whatever. I was just having so much fun with it mechanically. And I have to say, it's like we've seen stuff like this before with like particle, like terrain and stuff like that. Like this is not totally new. The Red Faction games come to mind. But there's something about how organic and great it feels in like the setting of a Nintendo proper platformer that just really, I don't know, it takes it to a whole nother level, and I can't wait to play through more of it.
It is. I have no idea how they made this game work. I mean, it looks like it runs off of voxels to me, but voxels are not known for being as organic and like real I mean, real. I mean,
Yeah.
like natural looking as this. You know, I'm thinking about typically as everything's gonna result into cubes, right? Not Minecraft cubes, but like small
Right.
particle cubes, and that's not how this game is. The terrain gets destroyed in weird shapes, and you pick up weird shapes, and you I don't know. It's really
Yeah,
bizarre.
and it all functions mechanically. Even
Yeah,
when I'm underground and there's the camera issue where it's like you've dug a hole and the
yeah,
camera has to like address you. Um, I never like it's never an issue. It's never a problem. You know, it always knows exactly what to show on the screen. It always knows exactly what angle to show you. And if you're, you know, if it looks choppy for a second, it's because you're moving. You know, it's because
right.
you're plowing through and you're reaching the other side. Like,
I have
it's a
noticed.
very, very impressive technical achievement.
I have noticed frame drops, but only in
Yeah.
like map transition moments or like clearly when it's loading something, it's only for a split second, and it doesn't affect it doesn't affect anything. It's crazy because I'm
Yeah.
usually really critical of stuff like that. It doesn't affect anything. Bonanza
I have a harder time
is
noticing
crazy.
things like that.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I'm pretty good at it, and it is very minimal. Um,
That's super.
I cannot believe this game exists, honestly. Because the
Yeah.
Switch 2, yeah, Switch 2 is way more powerful than a Switch, right? But my PC sitting next to me is way more powerful than a Switch 2. The PS5 across the
Yeah.
room, way more powerful than a Switch 2. And I would be surprised to see a game like this running the way it does on those systems. I just don't I
Yeah. I'd be just as impressed. And it's like 5 gigabytes.
Yeah. It's like 5 gigabytes.
Like,
It's
I don't know.
ridiculous.
I don't know. It's that Nintendo magic where they're working on their own hardware. It's
Yeah.
continually. I mean the anonymity of like their own studios and the way that they're like addressed, and it's like it just keeps Nintendo this totally like separate entity from the rest of the video game world, where it's like I can barely even comprehend like how they are so on top of trends and so on top of like, you know, cutting edge game design that like I feel very good. The Switch 2 is so expensive. And Mario Kart World, while I very much enjoy it, I think it's a great game. It didn't give me the exact like cutting edge Nintendo feeling that I was really hoping to get. And this is absolutely like this is a big revolutionary like Breath of the Wild moment. I think, you know,
Wow.
it'll be great to talk about it in the context of the lineage of Mario Odyssey and whatever the next
And that's
3D Mario
interesting
is.
because I'm playing it more and more, and obviously I got to finish the game, and I got to get through, and I got to try to get a bunch of things, like I complete as
Mm-hmm.
much of it as I can. But I don't know, I'm not feeling Mario Odyssey vibes from this game. Yeah, it was made
Really,
by the Mario Odyssey team. It was like we know that.
right?
I'm feeling Breath of the Wild vibes. I'm feeling more Zelda than Mario.
Yeah,
Than I and actually I wouldn't even say Breath of the Wild, specifically like Tears of the Kingdom. Just with
Oh,
yeah,
how you can break this game over your knee,
yes,
and it still like
yeah.
functions around you, and there's still like hard limits, like it's not gonna let you progress too fast. I'm sure speedrunners will have a
Oh, they'll do
field
something
day with this
crazy.
game,
Yeah,
but that Tears of the Kingdom gave you like this crazy infinite options essentially, and still was managed to limit you. And I'm getting the same vibes from this game to like another degree. Just it, I
yeah.
don't know. Bonanza is incredible. Bonanza is incredible.
this is getting me really excited. You know, I don't have a
Yeah,
Switch
yeah.
2. I don't know when I will own one, honestly. You know, maybe we can talk about it in another
We
episode, but
certainly
you know,
will.
I have very clear reasons why, you know, about kind of things we kind of talked about, why I don't plan on buying a Switch 2,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and at least anytime soon. But you know, I'm a huge Donkey Kong fan. My Nintendo account picture is Donkey Kong. I always take Donkey Kong when I'm playing Mario Kart. And Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy Color, it was like a port, which is actually quite good. It's the first video game I ever remember playing.
Neat, neat.
Cool.
And I'm a huge fan of the Donkey Kong series
Daisy, have
in general.
you played a lot of Donkey Kong games before this?
I sure have. Yeah. I have very early memories of playing Donkey Kong Country, Super Nintendo, borrowing it from my mom's friend, and not being able to get past Stop and Go Station, but I
Yeah.
sure did try.
I
And the remakes, or not the remakes, but the Retro Studios games,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Amazing.
The more I've never played Donkey Kong 64, but I've played a lot of the.
Hmm.
I've played all the old country games. I haven't played a lot of the recent ones, but I don't know. This doesn't. This doesn't feel like a Donkey Kong game that I've played before. It's got a different feel.
Mm.
I
Although
think
I will say,
they're redefining what Donkey Kong
yeah,
means to them.
I did get to a section. I'm not gonna say anything since you're not there yet, Daisy.
Yeah,
But I got to a section that just put a huge smile across my face, and I'm sure when you get there too, you'll enjoy it. It's you should have
great.
seen these before, but it's one of the ruins. It's one of like the little dungeons that you can do. I'm sure you'll
Hmm.
enjoy it. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't wait. It's I'm gonna take my sweet time with it. I'm gonna play a lot of it with my kids, but it is something that like I don't know, nothing's giving me the same vibes. I'm
yeah.
very much enjoying this. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. We
I
already did our loot drops. I know. Oh, Damien, I want you and Damien and Daisy, if you could tell us what you've been doing recently, other than Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Daisy, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing crazy. I've been keeping busy as with everybody's birthdays recently. So it's just been a lot of playing Magic the Gathering and watching a lot of professional wrestling has been, and that's pretty typical for me. But I'm having a lot of fun with those Final Fantasy cards and
Me
looking
too.
forward to new sets and just hanging out with my buddies. It's been really great. What about you, Damien?
Cool. For me, this is a bit topical because I have been playing the first Retro Studios like Donkey Kong game,
Cool.
Donkey Kong Country Returns, and you can play it, in two-player mode. And again, like I played through it, I think halfway through on the Wii U. Now I'm playing it on the Switch, and I remember there were like some like secret or extra levels that were really hard, and we talked about obsessiveness, and I do kind of get this completionist OCD, especially
Oh
with
yeah.
platformers, and this was like a huge thing that it got me into. But now because I'm playing through it with my partner, and she's not so much into difficult platforming and all of that, and doing the same level 1,000 times all over again. It's giving me a whole different like perspective on the game. But
Yeah.
it's a great game, like amazing for its time. When it came out on the Wii. Yeah, it like I think I had the actual Wii version, not even the Wii U. I think Tropical Freeze is on the Wii U.
Okay.
It is. Yeah.
Otherwise, I've been still playing a bit of through Red Dead Redemption. Great game. I'm still enjoying it so much. Like, and usually I'm not the kind of guy that like side quests. It's again a bit related to what we talked about, with, you know, in MMORPGs, how you waste a lot of time doing side quests and stuff like that. But and even, in the newer Zelda games, I didn't care that much about them. But I don't know why in Red Dead Redemption they're just so fun, even though I've got to say they're kind of repetitive, but I don't know. I'm always interested in them. I don't know why.
Good characters, good writing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That game's got that in spades.
yeah, yeah. And the last game I've been playing is Luigi's Mansion 3.
Hmm.
So
Cool.
this year is for me and my girlfriend the year of Luigi's Mansion. Kind of in the beginning, we played through the first one on the 3DS, and we really enjoyed it. I didn't expect that I would enjoy it so much. I think it's a really good game. Like I've heard people talk about it and review it before, but I never, you know, I had kind of like good expectations of it, but it's so, so masterfully crafted as a game. Have any of you guys played through it?
I've only ever played the
Played the
first
second
Luigi
one and the third
Mansion.
one.
I've only ever played the
Uh,
first one.
what did you think about the first one?
I mean, it's a classic. It's I can still like hum the little
Yeah.
I just I don't know what to say about it. It's an amazing game. I'd have to replay it to really think about it, but
It
love that game.
it just has so
Absolute
much
classic.
personality and creativity.
Yep.
Yeah, as a game. And when I finally got to playing the second one on the Switch, I was very disappointed because it lacked a lot of personality. I think Daisy, I kind of told you about it when I was
Hmm.
playing it. Um, so, and then I kind of went into Luigi's Mansion 3 with kind of lukewarm expectations. And especially the beginning didn't leave, like the first hour or so, didn't leave a good impression. But fortunately, you can, like, it has a two-player mode, for the story mode. And it does have a lot more personality and creativity than the second one. And
For sure.
I would say to me, it kind of resurrected my interest. Like, after playing the second one, I was not that interested in playing the third one. But, we still played it because, it's playable with two players and stuff like that. So why not give it a try? But now it's really kind of made me get into that. Otherwise, the last thing is that, because I'm moving and I don't know when I will have a TV again in the future, is I've been watching a lot of anime because I enjoy watching them on the TV more. So I finally finished the final season of Attack on Titan, which I wanted to watch for years. I don't remember when it came out. Have you guys ever watched, like,
I watched
Attack on
it
Titan?
early when
Yeah.
it came out. I stopped after like season 2. It's a good series. I have heard the ending is wild, but
It is.
yeah, that series always was weird to me because it just seemed so out there, really creative, really cool. But I've heard the ending's wild. Daisy.
Yeah, same as you. I was watching it as it was coming out, and then I kind of just fell off after a little while. I mean, it's just such a bummer. Sometimes it's hard to motivate myself to want to watch another episode of that.
It was a
For me,
bummer.
yeah, for me, I remember when it came out and it had a huge hype, and I don't like to follow hypes because very often um, I feel misled. Then I have very huge expectations. Same thing with Squid Game, for example. It had a huge hype. I didn't follow it. I watched it recently, and it kind of confirmed what I was thinking. Like, in my opinion, it's fine. It's kind of addictive to watch and stuff like that, but I think it's quite overvalued. And I thought it would have been the same with Attack on Titan when which is why I voted it. But then, like a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I finally started watching it. And especially towards the later seasons, it gets very, very philosophical. It gets very similar to real life historical events and stuff like that. So gets very deep. I don't know if you're aware of that. And up until the end, it explores a lot of, guilt and retribution and stuff like that. And yeah, it was cool to do that. And otherwise, I'm kind of also again this perfectionist theme, obsessiveness theme. I kind of finished, or I've been finishing like anime I started,
Yeah.
and I didn't get to finish like Oshinoko. Have you guys heard about it?
No, not on my list.
No, I can't say I
Yeah,
have. It's
it
been a long time since I've
Oh
watched
it
an
wait, yes
anime.
it is. Yeah, sorry, I didn't recognize it at first. Yeah, I have the first couple of volumes of the manga that I've read. I
yeah.
haven't watched the anime though, but yeah, I'm familiar.
But
That's a fun one to explain the plot.
did you read the manga?
Yeah, the first few volumes.
What did you think about it?
I thought it was really well written and interesting, but I
Mhm.
did not have the desire to keep up with it.
Yeah, it was the same kind of with me after like 6 episodes in. It kind of gets into a more kind of slice of life, kind of typical high school thing,
Yeah,
and I didn't find it that interesting. And then I kind of just finished it just to finish it. and it
It
didn't.
has a really weird identity. I don't even know. It's done though?
What?
Is it finished?
I think it's still ongoing, but
Okay.
the anime, I think it has 2 seasons. I finished the first one.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, it's kind of, as you said, I'm not so interested in it anymore. I just finished it for the sake of it, but I played Red Dead Redemption while watching it, which is fine because, I understand Japanese, so I don't need to watch the subs to see what's going on. And especially
Two Dens is about a pop idol's gynecologist who's killed and then is reborn as her child in order to discover her killer's identity. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's the weird one about a woman's gynecologist being reincarnated as her son.
It sounds weird.
Yeah.
That's very Japan.
It's a little less weird than you might think, but it's a weird one. It's a really out there concept, and like it was like best manga of the year some year. At the end of the year, I always look and see what the best manga was that year, and then read the ones that stick out to me. And that was one where I was like, I don't think I want to read that at all, but like everybody's speaking so highly of it, and it is good. It is weird. It is well written. But yeah, it's not my cup of tea, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess, we kind of, students, you wanted to get into the loot drops. I think we
kind of
mentioned
did
them.
that already. Yeah.
We can just repeat it,
Sure.
because maybe, they kind of skipped through segments.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again,
Good idea.
Go for it, Damien. You
What?
start. Sorry.
Okay, my loot drop is the Donkey video, why he stopped playing League of Legends.
Mine was Chasing the Scream by Johann Hari, book on empathy and addiction.
And mine was Moon Channel, just the entire channel. Look on there, find a video that looks interesting, and give it a try. I do recommend his most recent video on consoles and whether whether companies can brick them, since that's very topical. His entire channel is fantastic, though. All right, thank you, everybody. Remember, join our Discord. It's linked in the description. And you can check out our channels as well. That'll also be linked there. I'll also have them at the end of the episode. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.